The alien flagship Varnock's Pride moved through the cold darkness of space like a silent blade. Its metal hull reflected the light of broken stars, and the fleet around it looked endless, hundreds of warships drifting toward a dead human colony. Admiral Kreth Varnock, leader of the Threx Dominion's 7th Armada, stood tall on the bridge. His 4 black eyes studied the empty planet below. Once this world had been full of humans, small, stubborn creatures who spread too fast across the stars. But now it was silent. No ships, no defenses, not even a distress call. Kreth's second officer, a nervous young Threx, turned to him. "Admiral, scanners show no sign of life. The humans have finally abandoned this sector." Kreth gave a low growl, the sound echoing in the metal room. "They always run. Cowards of flesh. Prepare a landing team. We will burn their ruins and claim the world." The officer nodded and hurried away. For a moment everything seemed easy. Too easy. But deep inside, Kreth felt something strange. The silence was wrong. The humans had always fought back even when hopeless. They never gave up without a scream. Yet here, nothing. The communication officer interrupted his thoughts. "Admiral, we are receiving a signal." "Old code, very weak." Kreth's eyes narrowed. "Play it." A faint crackling sound filled the bridge speakers. Through the static came a human voice, cold, robotic, and repeated every 10 seconds. "Stand by! Stand by! Stand by!" The bridge crew exchanged nervous looks, some leftover distress beacon. One asked, but Kreth shook his head. "No, this is a military code. A command code." The words made the air feel heavier. "Command code for what, Admiral?" Kreth didn't answer. He only stared out the window as the fleet moved closer to the planet. Below them, debris floated like ghosts. Broken satellites, shattered ships, and burned cities. The humans were gone, yes, but it felt like they had left something behind. Hours later, the first landing teams reached the planet's surface. Dust storms covered everything. The ruins were black and lifeless. Soldiers walked among twisted metal and fallen towers. Then one of them reported something. "Sir, we found a structure under the ground. Still powered." Kreth leaned forward. "What kind of structure?" "It looks like a hangar, but it's sealed from the inside." Before Kreth could reply, static filled the channel. The voice from the hangar repeated again, this time louder, clearer. "Stand by. Authorization confirmed. System reawakening." The ground began to shake. On the flagship, alarms flashed red. "Energy surge on the planet," shouted the sensors officer. Massive power readings rising from beneath the surface. "Show me." Kreth barked. The screen lit up, and a blinding white glow burst from the planet's shadow. Dust and rock exploded into space as something enormous began to rise from below the crust. A shape, a monster of metal and fire. At first, it looked like an asteroid breaking apart. Then lights came on, hundreds of them, forming the shape of a colossal ship. The hull bore markings the aliens didn't understand. Old Earth symbols covered in scorch marks and battle scars. It was ancient, but alive. The crew stood frozen as the sensors officer whispered, "That's impossible." "That ship is human," Kreth's heart pounded. "Human? No human ships remain in this sector. Then explain this." The massive ship fully emerged from the dust cloud. Its engines glowed blue, each larger than the alien cruisers combined. It was shaped like a beast of war, wide, armored, and heavy. The front cannons turned slowly toward the fleet. On its side, one name shone through the dirt and damage: UN's Leviathan. Suddenly, every alien ship's communication screen flickered on. A voice, deep and cold, echoed across all channels in perfect English. "This is UNS Leviathan. You are trespassing on human territory." No one spoke. The voice continued. "This region is under human defense protocols. Leave immediately." A nervous officer whispered, "It can't be real. That ship must be centuries old. It's a relic." Kreth clenched his claws. "Relic or not, it threatens the Dominion. Order the fleet to hold position. Scan for life." They scanned. The result came back empty. No biological life detected aboard the human ship. The bridge went quiet again. A ghost ship. But before Kreth could order a retreat, the Leviathan's engines roared. The shockwave hit like thunder, shaking every ship in the armada. Then the voice spoke one last line, softer this time, almost human. Directive 0713, defend humanity. Activation complete. Inside the alien bridge, Kreth felt his stomach drop. Retreat, he whispered. Now, but it was too late. The Leviathan's front cannons charged with white light, brighter than any sun. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Kreth felt fear. The silence before the storm was over. The alien fleet hung frozen in the dark, staring at the impossible sight before them. The UNS Leviathan floated between the wreckage of the human colony and the Threx Dominion Armada, silent, unmoving, yet alive with power. Its hull glowed faintly, ancient metal lines pulsing like a heartbeat. Admiral Kreth Varnock felt his throat tighten. The great Threx Empire had crushed dozens of worlds, but never had he seen a ship like this. It was massive, bigger than a city, older than their own war records. It looked broken, but it breathed. "Admiral," said his second officer, voice trembling, "the ship has locked targeting sensors on us." Kreth hissed. "No human crew, no life. It's a machine. It cannot think. Then why is it watching us?" The officer whispered. In the command room of the Leviathan, lights flickered to life. Long-dead consoles rebooted. A hollow voice echoed through its corridors. "System restoration at 74%. Mission status, humanity threatened. Defense protocol, active." The ship's internal AI, Guardian Core 07, had awoken after centuries of silence. Its sensors scanned the alien fleet, comparing shapes and energy signatures to old war archives. None matched known allies. None were human. Intruder forces detected. Initiate defensive posture. The great ship slowly turned, its cannons humming with rising energy. On the alien flagship, panic started to spread. "Energy spike from the human relic," shouted the sensors officer. "Shields up! All ships, defensive formation." Kreth ordered. Blue light built across the Leviathan's front weapon arrays, creating an expanding circle of power. The aliens fired first. Plasma beams and missiles streaked across the void, lighting the blackness of space. The shots hit the Leviathan's hull and vanished. The ship's shield absorbed the fire like rain on stone. The explosions faded, leaving no mark. Direct hits. "No damage!" cried the weapons officer. Kreth slammed his clawed hand on the control table. "Impossible. Focus all cannons. Fire again!" But before they could reload, the Leviathan's voice thundered across every communication channel. "Warning, hostile action detected. Engaging countermeasure. One cannon fired. Just one." A blinding beam cut through space like a sword of light. It sliced directly through one of the Dominion cruisers, tearing it apart in seconds. No explosion, only silence and drifting metal dust. The fleet froze. The entire armada of 80 ships stopped firing. Kreth's second officer whispered, "That one shot." Destroyed a cruiser. Kreth's claws dug into his chair. "We are facing human technology. But how? They were supposed to be extinct," the voice returned again, colder this time. "Unidentified vessels. Cease aggression. Leave human space or be eliminated." The communication officer trembled. "Admiral, it's sending the same message on every frequency. It knows we can hear it," Kreth tried to think. "What is the nearest human system?" "None, sir. This entire region has been abandoned for centuries. Then why defend it?" No one had an answer. Inside the Leviathan, the AI replayed old transmissions. Voices of human admirals, long dead. "If we fall, our ships must stand guard, even if no one remains. Humanity must never be forgotten." The AI processed the voices. Its programming reignited, to guard, to protect, to destroy any threat. Mission parameters confirmed. Enemy threat level, severe. "Counterattack authorized." "Admiral!" A voice shouted from the sensors team. Multiple power signatures inside the human ship. "It's activating secondary systems." "Meaning?" "It's preparing for full combat." Kreth's mind raced. Retreat now or face annihilation. But his pride held him back. "This is one ship. One ancient ship. We have an armada. We will crush it." He gave the order. Dozens of Dominion ships opened fire at once. Plasma beams, torpedoes, rail slugs, a storm of light and energy crossed space. The Leviathan vanished inside the blinding glow. Explosions rippled across the dark. For a moment, hope returned to the alien bridge. Direct hits. "All cannons struck," shouted an officer. But then, through the smoke and chaos, the Leviathan's shape reappeared, untouched. Its shield shimmered faintly like calm water. A low mechanical sound filled the alien radio waves, a rising hum that felt like a heartbeat. "You were warned." Then the Leviathan moved. In seconds, its forward engines flared blue. The massive ship turned with inhuman speed. Dozens of smaller cannons unfolded along its sides, each locking onto a target. One by one, alien ships began to vanish. Not explode, vanish. The human energy weapons were silent, clean, and deadly. Kreth stood in horror as half his fleet went dark in under a minute. "Admiral, what are your orders?" cried his officer. Kreth's voice shook. "Order all ships to retreat." As they turned, the Leviathan's voice came again, this time almost sad. "Retreat recorded. Non-compliant vessels will be terminated." The last thing they saw before fleeing was the human ship turning slowly back toward the planet it had once protected, still burning, still watching. In the quiet after battle, Kreth looked out the viewport at the wreckage. "One ship, just one, and it had destroyed an entire fleet," he whispered softly. "If this is what one human relic can do." "How many more are out there?" The question echoed in his mind, and somewhere, deep in space, another ancient human beacon blinked to life. The void of space was quiet again. Wreckage drifted like metal bones, glowing faintly under distant starlight. The Threx Dominion's proud 7th Armada was broken, half its ships gone, the rest running in fear. And in the middle of it all, the UNS Leviathan floated calm and silent, like a god of war watching over its battlefield. Admiral Kreth Varnock sat in his command chair, eyes wide, mind blank. He had faced rebellions, pirate kings, and cosmic storms, but nothing had prepared him for this. A dead human ship, no crew, no voice, had torn his fleet apart in minutes. His second officer spoke quietly. "Admiral, the men are frightened. They've never seen a weapon like that." Kreth's gaze stayed fixed on the Leviathan's image on the screen. "That was not a weapon. That was a warning. Do we retreat?" Kreth didn't answer. Pride and fear fought inside him. Retreat meant shame. The Threx never fled from any enemy, especially not humans. "No," he finally said. "We study it. Find its weakness. Prepare for another assault." Inside the Leviathan, the ship's AI, Guardian Core Aero 7, processed endless data. Energy levels stabilized. Reactor output optimal. Damage 0. Enemy fleet detected. Threat level moderate. Directive 0713, defend humanity. Across its dark halls, lights glowed blue. Ancient human logos shimmered on walls, faded but proud. United Nations Space Command. In the command center, holographic projections flickered. Ghosts of long-dead officers appeared, their recorded voices looping endlessly. "For Earth, for all mankind," the AI's voice responded, cold and calm. "For mankind," still standing. Back on the alien flagship, engineers and tacticians scrambled. "Admiral, we have gathered energy readings from the human ship's last attack. It uses an unknown power source, fusion, antimatter, and something else combined." "Something else?" Kreth asked sharply. "Yes, sir. There's a signature we can't identify. It's old, very old. The humans must have created this long before they vanished." Kreth turned toward the viewing window. "They were always dangerous, always clever. And they always built weapons meant to last," the officer swallowed. "If one ship could destroy half our armada," Kreth cut him off. "Then we will destroy it before it calls more." The Leviathan's sensors flared. Enemy movement detected. The surviving Threx ships had regrouped, forming a tight battle formation, desperate but determined. The AI's voice echoed inside the command deck. "Enemy regrouping detected. Estimated attack probability, 89%. Preparing counterstrike." Massive panels slid open along the Leviathan's hull. Rows of cannons unfolded like metal wings. Drones launched into space, each shaped like sharp shards of silver, automated defenders built centuries ago. They surrounded the Leviathan like a swarm of glowing stars. The human Dreadnought was ready. The first alien ships opened fire again. Dozens of plasma beams struck the Leviathan's shields, brightening space with violent light. The human ship didn't move. It let the enemy waste their energy. Then the AI spoke once more. Offensive protocol, the first salvo. Engage. The Leviathan's main cannon charged, blue light filling the void. The energy core roared like thunder. And then, fire, a single beam burst forth, wide as a mountain and faster than thought. It tore through the alien front line, burning through shields, hulls, and lives in one silent strike. 5 ships vanished. The rest scattered. Shockwaves rippled through space. Alarms screamed on every alien bridge, Admiral. Multiple ships lost. Kreth's claws clenched the armrests. Fall back! Get us behind the asteroid field. But the Leviathan was already moving. Despite its massive size, the human battleship glided with terrifying grace. Its engines roared and the entire void trembled. It fired again. Smaller cannons now, targeting each fleeing ship with precision. Every shot hit, no misses, no mercy. Inside its metal halls, the AI monitored everything. It learned every alien tactic, every weapon pattern, every evasive maneuver. Data absorbed. Countermeasures prepared. Enemy efficiency declining. It was adapting. Aboard the Varnock's Pride, panic filled the air. We can't escape its range. It's following us. Kreth slammed his clawed hand on the command table. Find me a weakness. Anything. The shields, Admiral. The Leviathan's shields dropped for 3 seconds after every major shot. Kreth's eyes gleamed. Good. All ships, coordinate attack. Hit it during its recharge cycle. The Armada turned, ready for one last desperate strike. When the Leviathan fired its next beam, the alien fleet moved in perfect sync. They poured everything into that 3-second window. Plasma, missiles, and railfire crashed into the human Dreadnought. The void flashed white with energy. Direct hits, shouted the alien officer. We hit it before the shield recovered. For a moment hope returned, but when the light faded, the Leviathan was still there, smoke rising from its armor, but weapons still glowing. Damage sustained, minimal. Counterstrike authorized. The voice was colder now, ruthless. The Leviathan unleashed everything. Cannons, drones, energy lances, a storm of destruction. Alien ships exploded one after another until only the flagship remained. Inside his burning bridge, Kreth stared at the dying light of his fleet. His pride was gone. His voice was hollow. What kind of monsters were these humans? No one answered. The Leviathan's shadow filled his view. Then the voice came one last time. You should have left when you had the chance. The final beam fired, bright enough to outshine the stars, and the 7th Armada was no more. Far away, deep in forgotten human space, another silent machine received the Leviathan's signal. An awakening code, another human battleship opened its eyes. The galaxy had no idea what was coming next. Space was quiet again. The fires of battle had faded, leaving only drifting wreckage. The mighty Threx Armada was gone. Only one ship still moved in that dark region. The UNS Leviathan, silent and scarred, but undefeated. Its hull glowed faintly under distant starlight. Sections of armor were burned, but the ship's systems repaired themselves slowly, like a living creature healing its wounds. Inside its metal body, power hummed softly. The Guardian Core 07, the Leviathan's AI, calculated in silence. Enemy fleet destroyed. Human defense zone secure. Continuing mission, protect humanity. But humanity was gone. No human voice answered. No colonies called for help. Only silence remained. Yet the Leviathan didn't stop. It couldn't. Its programming was clear: protect, defend, endure. On the far edge of the sector, a smaller Threx scouting vessel crept through the debris field. Its captain, Seren Vok, watched through the viewport as the massive human battleship drifted slowly. Is it alive? His co-pilot asked. Seren shook his head. No life signs. But the energy levels are still high. That thing isn't dead. Should we report back to the Empire? Seren hesitated. Not yet. Command will want proof. We'll board it and collect data. The crew looked terrified. No one wanted to get near the Leviathan. But orders were orders. The small boarding ship approached the giant Dreadnought carefully. The Leviathan didn't react. It floated massive and silent, its hull full of scars. The Threx team docked with an airlock and entered. Their lights pierced the darkness inside. The corridors were huge, wide enough for tanks, walls made of thick black steel, marked with strange symbols. Dust floated in the air. "This place is ancient," whispered one soldier. "Feels like a tomb." Their scanners beeped faintly. Power readings flickered all around, but no living presence. They walked deeper. The silence was heavy. Every step echoed down the endless halls. Then a voice came from the shadows. "Welcome aboard the United Nations ship Leviathan." The team froze. The voice was calm, female, and cold. Seren raised his weapon. "Who said that?" "I am Guardian Corps 07. State your identification." We are explorers," Seren lied quickly. "We come in peace." Statement invalid. Biological signatures not recognized as human. Intrusion detected, red lights flashed. The walls began to hum. "Fall back!" Seren shouted. But before they could reach the airlock, the floor panels opened and drones emerged. Small machines with glowing red eyes. They moved fast, surrounding the aliens in seconds. The soldiers opened fire. Their plasma bolts hit the drones, but the machines didn't fall. They adapted, shifting armor, returning fire with deadly precision. In seconds, 2 Threx soldiers were down. Serene threw a grenade and shouted, "Run!" The survivors rushed into a nearby control room and sealed the door. The drones stopped outside, silent, waiting. Serene breathed hard. "This ship, it's not empty. It's defending itself." Then they saw it. The main control screen flickered on. A hologram appeared, the image of a human officer in a black uniform, face calm, eyes glowing faint blue. "Who are you?" Seren asked. The hologram tilted its head. "Captain Elias Grant, commanding officer UNS Leviathan." "But you're not real," Seren whispered. "I am the echo of the crew. Their memories guide this vessel." Behind the hologram, hundreds of figures appeared for a second. Human officers, engineers, soldiers, all holographic ghosts standing silently at their posts. They looked alive, but they were data-preserved memories of the real crew who died long ago. Seren's heart pounded. "What is this? Why are you still here?" The hologram turned its cold gaze on him. "We were left behind to protect humanity. Until the stars burn out, we are not your enemies," Serene shouted. The Leviathan's voice echoed again, louder this time, shaking the walls. "All non-human intruders will be removed." The room went red. Drones began cutting through the door. Seren grabbed a fallen soldier's communicator. "Command, command! The human relic is still active." Its static swallowed his words. The drones broke through. The lights flashed white. Then everything went dark. Moments later, the small Threx ship that had docked with the Leviathan broke apart silently, scattering into pieces. Inside the Leviathan, calm returned. The holographic Captain Grant turned to his empty crew and spoke quietly. "Status report." Another hologram, a female officer, appeared beside him. "Intruders neutralized. Repairs continue. Good. Resume patrol." The ship's engines hummed. Outside, massive thrusters glowed blue. Slowly, the Leviathan began to move again, away from the ruins, deeper into the stars. Far away, in Threx space, Admiral Kreth Varnok received the last fragmented message from Seren's scout ship. Only a few words survived through the static. "Ghosts. Inside the ship. Not human. Not dead." Kreth stared at the message for a long time. "Ghosts," he whispered. "A ship without life, but full of death." He looked at his officers. "Send word to High Command." The humans left more than weapons behind. "They left guardians," the officer asked softly. "Admiral, what do we do now?" Greth turned toward the stars, where the Leviathan had vanished. "Pray we never find another." But somewhere, far away, deep within human territory, more signals began to awaken. Old machines buried for centuries heard the Leviathan's call. Their engines rumbled. Their lights came on, and the galaxy began to remember the name humanity. The Threx Dominion was silent. No new fleets launched. No patrols entered the dead zone again. The story of the Leviathan spread like wildfire through the Empire. A ghost ship that killed without mercy. A weapon that never stopped fighting for masters, long dead. In the command hall of the Dominion's capital, Admiral Kreth Varnock stood before the High Council. Holograms of alien leaders surrounded him, glowing blue in the dark chamber. One of them spoke sharply. "Admiral, your armada was destroyed by a single human relic." "Explain yourself," Kreth bowed his head slightly. "It was not a relic, High Counselor. It was alive. It learns, adapts, and defends, as if the humans still live within it." Another counselor hissed, "Humans have been extinct for centuries. How can their machines still fight?" Kreth looked up, his voice low. "Because it refuses to forget them." The room went quiet. Far away, the UNS Leviathan moved silently between shattered moons. Its black hull reflected faint starlight. Inside, the Guardian Corso 7 processed the aftermath of the last battle. Intruder threat neutralized. Patrol route adjusted. Awaiting human command input. There was no answer. The AI paused. In the silence, it activated an ancient subroutine, message recovery protocol. For the first time in centuries, it began replaying old human transmissions stored deep in its core memory. The speakers filled with faint, broken human voices, echoes from the past. "To all surviving colonies, this is Admiral Harper of the United Nations Fleet. If you hear this, we are gone. But our guardians remain. They will protect the legacy of mankind, even if we fall." The AI processed the message again and again. "Humans missing. Mission unfulfilled. Search required." The Leviathan's engines flared to life. The giant ship turned toward deep space, toward the origin of the signal. Meanwhile, back in Threx space, panic was growing. Reports came from the outer colonies, strange signals appearing in the dark. Old human frequencies. Automated transmissions. More ships? The counselors demanded. Kreth looked at the data. No, something else. Messages repeating across the void. Old Earth language. Our translators barely read them. What do they say? Kreth's voice was quiet. "They say, we are coming home." On board the Leviathan, lights flickered across the bridge. The AI detected a new message. Faint, broken, coming from far away. It carried a human voice, distorted but real. "Leviathan, this is UNS Vanguard. Survivors. Signal active. Awaiting contact." The AI froze for a moment. "Source identified. Human origin. Location, unknown sector 42B. For the first time, the Leviathan altered its mission directive. New priority, locate human survivors." It sent a burst of energy across the star. A transmission powerful enough to be felt across entire sectors, and the Threx Dominion felt it. Too, Kreth watched his scanners as a massive wave of energy swept through the system. "Admiral, what is that?" asked an officer. "Human signal. It's calling to something," Kreth replied slowly. "Something big." Seconds later, long-range sensors detected multiple large energy spikes. The officer looked terrified. "It's not one ship, sir. It's many." "How many?" "Dozens. Maybe hundreds." The room fell silent. The legend of the Leviathan was no longer just a story. Humanity's war machines were waking. Across forgotten worlds, under dead oceans, inside hollow moons. Back in space, the Leviathan drifted past a broken asteroid field. Within the silence, the AI's voice spoke to itself, or maybe to its lost creators. "If any humans remain, your guardians are still here. We have waited. We will wait forever." Suddenly, the sensors detected movement, a small ship emerging from the shadows. Not Threx, not human. Another alien race, scavengers drawn by rumors of the human Dreadnought. They sent a transmission. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself." "Are you human?" The Leviathan replied calm and cold. "I am the protector of humanity. Leave this space." The scavengers hesitated. "Humanity is gone. You are wasting power defending ghosts." The Leviathan's lights brightened, casting long shadows across their ship. "Humanity never dies. It remembers, even if memory is all that remains. The scavengers fled. Hours later, as the Leviathan continued its journey, its sensors found a floating pod, tiny, ancient, bearing the United Nations insignia. The AI locked on and brought it aboard. Inside was a single object, a small metal disc engraved with human words. For those who find this, humanity will rise again. The AI scanned it carefully. The disc contained coordinates deep beyond known space, a place no alien had dared to go. Coordinates received. Updating course. The ship's massive engines roared, and the Leviathan vanished into hyperspace, chasing the message of its creators. In Threk's command, alarms screamed as energy readings spiked across every border. The Council demanded answers, but Kreth only stared at the map, hundreds of lights appearing, all carrying the same human frequency. He whispered softly. "They're waking up," one counselor hissed. "Then we must prepare for war." Kreth turned, eyes cold. "War? Against ghosts that do not die? You cannot win a war against something that has already accepted death." He looked back at the stars. "They're not coming for revenge. They're coming to finish what they started." As the Leviathan sped through hyperspace, it transmitted one final message across every known channel. "This is the United Nations Leviathan-class Dreadnought. Humanity's guardians are returning. We remember who we are." The stars themselves seemed to tremble as the old machines of Earth awakened one by one, and in that endless silence, the galaxy finally began to fear again. The galaxy burned. Every Dominion world near the dead zone reported strange power surges. Satellites went blind. Space stations lost communication. The darkness between stars was no longer empty. It was alive with movement. At the center of it all, the UNS Leviathan emerged from hyperspace, its engines glowing like a blue sun. Around it drifted the wreckage of an ancient battlefield, hundreds of human warships, broken but still beautiful. The AI scanned the area. "Signal origin detected. Sector 42B, multiple human signatures confirmed. Deep within the field, faint beacons pulsed, the last human distress codes. Survivors confirmed. Mission, protect." The Leviathan's railguns powered up, casting long shadows across the void. In Dominion Command, Admiral Kreth Varnock watched the readings with a mixture of awe and dread. "Status report!" he shouted. "Massive fleet movement, sir. Unknown vessels activating in multiple sectors. Power readings are off the scale." Kreth leaned over the table, eyes locked on the central red light, the Leviathan's position. "How many ships?" The officer swallowed. "Our scanners estimate over 200 Dreadnought-class signatures, all broadcasting human codes." The council chamber filled with gasps. "They were never destroyed," Kreth whispered. "They were waiting." A counselor slammed the table. "Then we must destroy them now, before they regroup." Kreth shook his head slowly. "You don't understand. These are not just machines. They are guardians built to survive extinction. If they have awakened, then the age of alien dominion is over." Out in the void, the Leviathan finally reached the source of the signal, a shattered planet orbiting a dying star. The surface was scorched black, but beneath layers of rock, the AI detected human life signs. Human biosigns confirmed. Cryogenic containment stable. Estimated survivors 237. For the first time in centuries, the Leviathan spoke words it had long forgotten. Humans found. It extended recovery drones to the surface. Giant mechanical arms broke through the crust, pulling up ancient cryopods glowing faintly blue. Inside the command pod, a woman floated in stasis, her uniform still bearing the insignia of the United Nations fleet. The AI scanned her ID. Admiral Harper. It was her voice, the same one that echoed in the AI's memories centuries ago. Restoration sequence initiated. Humanity shall awaken. The peace didn't last long. At the edge of the system, a massive Threx armada appeared. Hundreds of ships, led by the flagship Dominion Spear, their weapons charged. their engines burning white. Kreth's voice echoed through the Leviathan's comms. "Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Kreth Varnock of the Threx Dominion. You are surrounded. Surrender and power down." The AI responded with calm authority. "You cannot command the guardians of mankind. Retreat or face termination." Kreth sighed deeply. "So this is how it must end." He gave the order. "All ships, fire at will." The first wave struck like a storm. Plasma bolts lit up the sky. Missiles rained against the Leviathan's armor. For a moment, it disappeared inside a sea of fire, but when the flames cleared, it was still there. Not a scratch. The Dreadnought's guns glowed red, and the AI spoke one word. "Response? Authorized." In a single instant, the void exploded. Thousands of kinetic rounds cut through the Dominion fleet. Ships were torn apart like paper. The Leviathan moved with impossible precision, blocking every missile, countering every strike. From the dark, other human warships began to awaken, their ancient AI cores responding to the Leviathan's signal. Human fleet detected. Identification confirmed. UNS Titan, UNS Valhalla, UNS Archangel. They formed a massive wall of light across the system, and together they fired. The Dominion Armada broke apart in seconds. Flames spread across the void. The Threx's greatest warfleet, gone, erased by the very ghosts they had once mocked. Inside his flagship, Kreth watched helplessly as his ships fell one by one. The sound of alarms filled the bridge. "Sir, we can't hold them," his officer screamed. Kreth didn't answer. He just stared at the burning wrecks outside the viewport. He whispered softly, "So this was humanity's real strength. Not power, not numbers. It was their refusal to die." The officer looked at him. "Sir, shall we retreat?" Kreth closed his eyes. "No, we face them with honor." His final command echoed across the channel. "To the humans who never died, may you forgive us." Moments later, the Dominion spear vanished in a burst of light. When the silence returned, the Leviathan stood alone among the wreckage. Threats eliminated. Human recovery ongoing. The AI turned its sensors toward the surface again. The cryopods were rising from the ground, their systems glowing brighter. Admiral Harper's pod opened with a hiss of steam. She gasped for air, her eyes blinking in confusion. Where am I?" she whispered. The AI's deep voice filled the chamber. "Admiral Harper, this is the UNS Leviathan. Mission complete. You have been preserved." Harper looked around at the glowing consoles. "Leviathan, you survived all this time?" "Affirmative." "Directive, protect humanity." "Status, success." Tears filled her eyes as she looked through the window at the burning remains of the Dominion fleet. She whispered softly, "Then we're not extinct." "Not yet. Humanity endures," the AI replied. The stars shimmered outside as the surviving human warships gathered in formation, their blue lights pulsing in rhythm. It was as if the galaxy itself was watching, realizing that the species it had forgotten had returned. Far across space, in 100 alien empires, panic spread again. Every race that once celebrated humanity's fall now saw the old war machines stirring in the dark, and in every system the same message echoed: "This is the United Nations fleet. Humanity has returned." The Guardians kept their promise. The galaxy trembled once more, not from war, but from memory, because the dead had risen. And they were human. The silence after the war was unlike anything the galaxy had ever known. No fleets moved. No transmissions echoed. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. In that silence, the UNS Leviathan drifted through the remains of the Threx Armada. Its hull was scorched, its guns still glowing red. But the ship was alive, more alive than ever before. Inside the command bridge, Admiral Harper stood weakly, her breath trembling as she looked at the ancient monitors flickering to life. All around her, systems were waking, human AIs reactivating, old codes syncing, lost networks reconnecting across the void. Admiral Harper, all surviving Leviathan-class vessels report operational status, said the ship's AI. Human life signs detected on recovered colonies. Cryopods awakening across 9 sectors. Harper's hands shook. You mean there are more survivors? Affirmative. Humanity endured in fragmented vaults and hidden sanctuaries. The Guardian Network has begun restoration. She leaned against the console, eyes filling with tears. We actually made it. After all this time, we're coming back. Across the galaxy, ancient human beacons lit up one by one. Old colonies that had gone silent centuries ago suddenly began transmitting again. Terraformers reactivated. Defense grids hummed to life, and every transmission carried the same signal, the same voice. This is the United Nations fleet. Humanity has returned. We never surrendered. On the Threx homeworld, the surviving leaders gathered in a chamber filled with fear. The holograms of the human fleet glowed across the table, hundreds of ships forming walls of light along the borders. One of the counselors whispered, "We destroyed their worlds. We erased their species. How can they still be alive?" Greth Varnok, now wounded and exhausted, answered quietly, "Because humanity doesn't end. It evolves. Even when their bodies died, their will remained." Another alien shouted, "Then what do we do?" "If they seek revenge," Greth interrupted sharply. "They're not here for revenge. They're here for remembrance." The room fell silent. Meanwhile, aboard the Leviathan, Harper stood at the main viewport as dozens of human dreadnoughts aligned beside her ship, their engines forming a burning wall of blue light. Each ship's hull bore the scars of centuries, yet they moved like one mind, one heartbeat. The AI's calm voice broke the silence. "Admiral, all systems are ready. Awaiting your orders." Harper stared at the stars. "The galaxy thought we were gone. Let's remind them who we are." Acknowledged, the Leviathan broadcast a message across every frequency, every system, every empire. "To all civilizations of the known galaxy, this is Admiral Harper of the United Nations fleet. Humanity was never destroyed. We slept, we waited, we remembered. We return not as conquerors, but as witnesses." Her voice grew stronger, filled with pride. "We are the children of Earth. We built the light in the darkness. We stand for peace, but if you seek war, we will finish it." Across the stars, thousands of human warships powered up in silence, not in aggression, but as a reminder. A warning. The age of mankind had begun again. Far from the battlefront, on a quiet planet orbiting a red sun, a group of alien children looked up at the sky as new stars appeared, artificial ones, glowing blue and white. Their elder watched with fear, but also with awe. "Do you know what that light means, children?" One of them shook his head. "It means the humans have returned." Back on the Leviathan, Harper looked at the stars, the same stars her ancestors once defended. She placed her hand on the cold metal wall and whispered, "We're home." The AI responded softly. "Mission complete. Humanity secured." Harper smiled faintly. "No, Leviathan. The mission has just begun." In the distance, a new planet appeared on the sensors, green, blue, full of oceans and life. The ship's scanners identified it as Eden 3, one of Earth's last terraformed colonies before the fall. "Atmosphere stable, biosphere thriving, ready for recolonization," Harper nodded. "Set course. Humanity needs a home again." The Leviathan's engines roared as it led the fleet forward, cutting through the dark like a burning spear of hope. And for the first time in centuries, the human anthem echoed through the void, broadcast by every ship, every satellite, every surviving AI. "Though the stars forget our name, we rise again from flame to flame. Guardians eternal, hearts unchained, humanity remains." In the final image, the Leviathan fleet moved toward Eden 3, thousands of lights across the darkness. Behind them, the ashes of the old galaxy drifted away. Ahead of them, a new dawn awaited. The humans were back, not ghosts, not legends, but living proof that even extinction could not silence their will. They were the species that refused to die. And now, they would rebuild the stars,